Hi muckers and welcome to the new Chronically Online podcast. Before we get in, I have a really exciting announcement, which is I am going on tour in February, and if there are any muckers in Brooklyn, Chicago, Seattle, LA, Dallas, I will be there in February. It is also called the Chronically Online Tour. I'm so excited. It is going to be the most deranged night of your entire life. Tickets are available down below. I will see you all hopefully in February. Again, that is Brooklyn, Chicago, Seattle, LA, and Dallas. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And again, they both have same names, Chronically Online Podcast and the Chronically Online Tour. I'm super excited. So hopefully see you in February. Tickets are available down below. Hi muckers, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the Chronically Online Podcast. And this is a dream come true. I feel like a VidCon, like I've been surprised at VidCon with one of my favorite creators. I'm here with Grace Helbig.
Hi.
First of all, I just need to tell you that this honestly does feel like one of those just moments on like,
Make-A-Wish?
I wasn't going to say Make-A-Wish. But it feels like one of those experiences where like VidCon will surprise their favorite creator with someone. So my brother Josh grew up watching your videos, and he's a little bit older than me. And whenever I was in the kitchen watching those Miranda Sings videos, you were in the other room and
doing God knows what.
And ultimately, I started watching the content as well. So this is my brother Josh. Josh, right
thank you, Josh.
Honestly, dream come true. Let me compose myself. First of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And also, thank you for being so easy with this entire process. You were so quick in responding, and you were so easy with booking everything. You can tell that you're a veteran in this game.
Oh, yeah. I don't like to, I mean, you treat people how you want to be treated.
Fair.
And I'm also very neurotic about like not giving people enough information or not like making sure that they understand like everything that's going on or that I understand everything that's going on. So I might be a little overkill on that.
Just a genuine question for you. I know you have the podcast with memoir, which we'll talk about later. Do you go on many podcasts? Like what's your kind of...
I'm in this funky phase right now where I had kind of taken a step back from like entertainment as much, social media as much, content creation as much. Then I got sick this last year, and now I'm in this, and thankfully everything's okay with breast cancer and all that. We could talk about that later. And now I'm in this spot where I have to start making decisions about like how I want to show up creatively. Yeah. And I'm very gently dipping my toes in, but I love like when I'm such an agreeable person. So when you asked me, I was like, oh my God,
please.
Thank you. Yes, of course I'll come. I don't have much new stuff to talk about, but I love to yap.
How do you feel your attitude has changed from doing this so long, like now versus like way back in the day?
Can I curse on?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a mind fuck. Yeah. Like it truly is.
When someone says, can I curse, by the way, I never know what word is going to come out. So
yeah, I know. Cause you have a whole list of curse words that I don't, that sound like, just fairy tale noises to me. But I'm still, I think, making sense of like the last 15 years of my creative life. I think a lot of content creators kind of have that moment where it's such a whirlwind for a lot of us that were involved in YouTube in the very beginning years that you kind of feel like you got tossed into like a dryer and spun around a bunch. And then all of a sudden like 10 years go by and you're like, what am I doing? Who am I? And what is this landscape? And everything changes constantly. So a lot of self-work seems to go around. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out like where I fit in and what I want to do.
Does it actually feel like it went quick though? Because I mean, I've kind of been doing this really as like my full bit for like 4 years. I feel like it's felt long.
In it felt like long and almost like, well, this is going to be forever. Like you're just in it, especially at that time. It's like none of us had any blueprints of other people that had done this, what we were doing before. Very like, so we're all just kind of like looking around, taking opportunities, being creative, kind of observing the way everyone else is doing it and all sort of like moving forward as best we could. And I think it like over time, like, so that felt long, and I guess time was kind of time was messed up the whole time. Like I still look back and I'm like, I have chunks of memories that don't exist. Like I have periods of time that I'm like, did that happen? Like thankfully there's a series of documentation of the things that have happened in the last 15 years because my brain is like, what? Okay, there's proof. So I guess that happened.
There's no hiding from it, babe.
Yeah.
There's no hiding from it.
Now in hindsight, it feels like it went so quick.
Yeah.
But at the time it was like, oh, this is like, I'm just in it.
What age were you during kind of like the starting years?
So it's crazy because I feel like I started late. So like I was like out of college, 24, I think is when I officially got my full-time job as a content creator, 24, 25, something like that. So like when Mamrie and I were all making these videos for people, like the audience was high school age.
Yeah.
Like when you said your brother was older, I was like, thank God, because if you had a younger brother that was watching us at that time, that's like criminal in some way.
Well, I mean, also let's look at who the younger ones were watching. It didn't really work out well either. I'm going to be honest.
I mean, that is wild to see how far we've all come. But the, it's just like we felt older the whole time, and now like we're like, you know, in our 40s or approaching our 40s, I feel like I'm still 26. That's probably just what I need to work on in therapy a little bit, but I feel like we were always a little bit older than like the median age of like viewers, and because a lot of people were coming up watching this and then going, I want to do that. So they started at very, yourself included. Like, how old were you when you started?
Well, I think I was posting videos since I was like 8 years old.
Yeah,
which is shocking.
See, we didn't have the technology for that at that age. Like, we only had YouTube came into existence when I was a senior in college, university, and that was the first time we had access to like public, other than like GeoCities websites and all of these Yahoo chat rooms beforehand.
Well, the thing is as well, there's pros and cons to the fact that I had unrestricted access to the internet. One of the pros is ultimately I was uploading for so long that I knew how to work the platform by a certain age. Like I knew how to upload, I knew how to, you know, kind of work it that way. But yeah, whenever I was watching kind of your content and kind of other people within that sphere, I think I would have been like probably like 12 to 15 years old, and my brother would have been like 17 to like 20, which I think kind of makes sense with that.
Yeah, that makes sense because everyone watches up. I mean, I remember watching MTV when I was like in high school and watching people on The Real World that were in their 20s and being like, well, that's what I want to do. Yeah. And then I got myself in front of a camera just in a different way than they did.
So wait, you grew up where?
In New Jersey.
I have been to New Jersey once, and it was to go to the Walmart.
Yeah.
I literally got a long-ass Uber from Manhattan to New Jersey. I wanted to go to a Walmart so bad. Let me tell you something.
Oh, specifically to go to the experience of a Walmart, not for any product or something you had to pick up?
No, just for the Walmart experience.
Wow.
And this was maybe a month ago. I wish I could tell you that this was longer ago, but this was honestly like a month ago. And it was an expensive-ass Uber. It was a long-ass Uber in the peak traffic. Don't know why I did it. And you know what? I had the best fucking time.
Did you?
I had the best fucking time. Love New Jersey. Would love to go back.
You saw a very interesting part of New Jersey.
Do you know the one I'm talking about? Like big super center?
New Jersey's big as a state. I grew up in South Jersey. You went, I'm assuming, to somewhere in North Jersey over the
Damn, I gotta go down to the
Manhattan.
Walmart in South.
Yeah, I think there's a few Walmarts in the state of New Jersey.
I will be going through all of them like this. Wait, so growing up in New Jersey, what kind of age was it that were you posting in New Jersey in terms of like YouTube or no?
So when I went to college, I studied communications. I thought I wanted to be like a writer, screenwriter, and I was kind of focused on that. But I kind of gathered this group of friends and we got into comedy and we got into like video production and we started making like a little sketch comedy television show for our college campus for one of our classes. And then I took an editing class and our editing teacher had us all make YouTube accounts so that we could upload our projects and share them with each other in class. And I thought it was like an inter-campus like website for video uploading. I didn't realize it was like public forum to everyone. So I think they're mostly deleted now, but all of the very first videos on my channel are all projects that I did.
The same YouTube channel that you have now?
Yeah.
Damn, God bless.
Yeah. And so I then once like realized what this platform was, but not understanding the scope of it at all, my college roommate and I, after we graduated, we moved to Brooklyn and we started making little videos together of just like our experience moving. And she was an editor at the time. And so we would trade off who could edit them in the funniest way. We wouldn't make them longer than 2 minutes. Like that was
Pioneer
max.
shorts. Look at you.
Truly. And then I was kind of pursuing comedy. I was trying to perform a lot at doing improv and sketch comedy and going on auditions for different things, and then got hired by this website called My Damn Channel to make web content for them, just as like a trial test run kind of thing. And that's where Daily Grace started. Yeah. And then that sort of took off as YouTube took off, and then we took it from there.
I think one thing that's really interesting about you saying you didn't necessarily know what YouTube was whenever you were first uploading to it.
Yeah.
So I had Lauren Gray on a couple days ago, and she is this like TikToker, Musically, like was the most followed the first couple years of TikTok, because she was on Musically and was huge, right? And she's so young. And when she was, you know, really getting this momentum on Musically, she didn't even know that she was posting on the platform. Whatever the story was, she was uploading them as like drafts or something, but she didn't realize they were actually being posted. And then ultimately she had gained such a following without even knowing it.
Wow.
And then had to confront her parents with the fact that she was going viral and she didn't even know that she was posting the videos, which is so similar to the kind of, you didn't necessarily know the platform at its full extent.
Yeah, so I was making these videos for My Damn Channel, and they had hired me with this sort of experimental premise of, hey, we're seeing, you know, single person content kind of blow up on YouTube. We'd like to do that for our website that had like original comedy and music content. We need like a host that can direct people around, and then you can also like infuse your own comedy into it. And so I was like, okay, Monday through Friday. Yeah. And I get to work from home, and I get to quit my waitressing job right now and like actually make silly videos that like no one really knows about. Like that's so
that's
cool.
What you thought. That's what you thought.
Right. But for 2 years, I uploaded only to My Damn Channel's website.
Oh.
So there's like hundreds of videos that just live there.
Yeah.
And then when they started to see YouTube, this is like 2010, start to come into its own, we were like, we got to put Daily Grace on YouTube. And we did. And that's when things like really started to gain traction. And it was very strange because I was just like doing my job. Like I was hired as an independent contractor for My Damn Channel to make videos Monday through Friday. Yeah. Like I'm very good at following rules, and the rules of my contract were to make these videos. And it also happened to be the greatest job in the world. And it was like kind of private still. Like I would go to these improv shows and do like real comedy. To like, you know, 10 people in an audience. And then I get to like sneak home and make my silly little videos that paid my bills and was incredible. And so I just kept having to put my head down and like generate content. And it got into such a rhythm that I really did not notice at the time the scope of the channel's expansion. Like, and because I didn't own any of the content, I was kind of operating like I was an independent creator. I was shooting, uploading, and editing and doing all of the content myself. My Damn Channel owned everything. So it was then that I started to meet other creators in the space. And I started to go to things like VidCon and hear the way that other creators were sort of developing and evolving their brands and their businesses. Like the idea of evolving a brand wasn't like developing a personal brand developed as we made these videos. Like that was not an intention that anyone like set out to do. Maybe the very business minded, there's a lot of creators that understood the scope way better than me of the platform at that time. And I think we're creating into that. And I was just like, I'm just going to be a silly little clown every day until someone tells me I can't. And yeah, that was you just educating yourself in real time about the best way to structure yourself, and you're just experimenting. Like it's constant experimentation at that time.
Well, I think as well, the fact that they were kind of very forward thinking with like single creator content, because if you think about how many companies didn't really back the idea of like YouTuber until like 2014, 15, 16.
Yeah, I'm like, my dumb channel was incredible. Like the opportunity that they gave me and the support and the like encouragement that they gave me and the creative freedom that they gave me was incredible. I mean, I did a lot of other work on the side for them in a lot of other ways. It was only until Daily Grace became this sort of brand that was now valuable that like negotiations couldn't be made to, you know, work together moving forward. So I had to like cut the cord and just go back to my channel from college and try to build that up. And like, thankfully at that time, the intimacy that was forged with audiences was so like deep that people were like, yeah, we'll go over to this channel. And people did. And it was incredible.
How did you end up in LA then?
So that was the other thing. At that time, YouTube really was this incredible space because it was so collaborative. And it was interesting to sort of like spread, how do I say this without making like a sexual euphemism, to have both legs in two different kind of worlds, like the traditional comedy world and in this like ever evolving new media space. So it became more and more like exciting to me to create online because of the environment itself. The collaboration between creators was so like unlike anything I'd ever seen in the traditional space. You know, you walk into audition rooms and it's like you're competing against everyone constantly. And you can feel that regardless of how nice everyone or friendly everyone is. And YouTube was just the polar opposite of that. And it became more and more a safe space to create in. And I think that's how audiences felt about watching it. It became this like intimate, safe space of like creators and audiences like growing together and sharing together. And but being in New York, creators were hard to come by there. And so it was really difficult to collaborate. I'd want to work with someone, but everyone was in Los Angeles. So I'd be like, can you send me footage of you saying this dumb joke? And then I'll edit it together. And it was just like, you do
like
the
a
best.
Cut and paste.
Yeah, truly. And so eventually it reached a point where it was like, to continue to do this, like it's time to go to Los Angeles. And I did in 2012.
Well, here's the thing that I'm currently battling myself, which I would like your advice on.
Oh, okay.
So I currently live in Brighton in England, and I've been doing YouTube for a while, but I mean, it literally was like videos that no one was watching. And then whenever I started really getting into commentary was whenever I started building an audience.
Yeah, I'm so curious about, sorry to redirect here, to hear about your experience in the commentary world. Because that world, one, I watch a lot of commentary videos. It's fascinating to me. It also seems really tough.
In what way? In what way do you think that?
It seems stressful to keep up with drama, to put yourself into people's drama sometimes, and to make observations about it.
Well, the thing that I struggle with the most is sometimes people can not understand your intentions.
Right.
That's something that I struggle with a lot, because obviously I'm very upfront about the fact that I will make commentary videos and I will make videos on things that happen within drama.
Yeah.
And my perspective of it, you know, a lot of people will understand and a lot of people won't understand. And specifically if it comes to a creator that I have a personal tie with, a lot of people will automatically kind of like undermine what my actual opinion is on it, because they're like, oh, you're having a vendetta or you're biased. And that's something that I've always really struggled with. And maybe the first couple of years I fed more into like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm biased. But I think I have this attitude now where I'm like, not to sound like a dick, but like it is my channel with my opinions.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have always said I am not the news.
Right.
I am not here to give you the news. I'm here to give you my opinions on things.
Sure.
So that has been something that I've struggled with a lot. In terms of, is it exhausting? It can be.
Yeah.
And it depends on how deep you get in it. Like, I mean, whenever I'm in like a low point and I'm, you know, searching through subreddits that are hating on me or, you know, things like that, that's when it can get a lot.
Yeah.
But I think I've been doing it like 4 years or 5 years or something like that. I think I've kind of learned my own boundaries with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to other creators who do commentary, who do drama, that say that they just do not check their phone when it comes to not filming. But there's also a sense for me that I feel like if I'm not checking my phone, I'm falling behind on stuff. What is your perception? I know I'm going to get to my other question in a second. I'll keep it like right here. But what is your perception on, because it's relatively a new phenomenon. Obviously, commentary
is
video.
New. Like, I feel like I took a bit of a break from YouTube because I was incredibly burnt out. Turns out when you make a video every day for 5 or 6 years, it burns.
It'll catch up with you, babe.
Yeah, you look down, you're like, where'd my soul go? Oh, I don't know. Okay, let me go figure this out real quick. And now that I've been like slowly starting to look at it again, because it does feel a little bit like once you've worked so much on a platform and then you walk away, it's like a little bit of an abusive relationship of like looking at it again and it being so unfamiliar. And to see the rise of commentary videos, because I remember like those drama alert channels started in like 2016 and I thought they were really stupid.
Oh, don't worry, they're still around.
I thought they were incredibly hilariously dumb.
Yeah.
However, I was like, this makes total sense for the evolution of this ecosystem and this form of entertainment, the same way that tabloid magazines and that kind of stuff evolved in traditional, like this would be the next thing, is that the community starts commentating on itself. And so it's really interesting to see. And I'm fascinated by it. I mean, I love reality TV, so it feels a bit like a branch of that. But it does seem like it's for the bold because people are incredibly opinionated and people are incredibly brazen with their non-flattering opinions of you. And that will wear you down unless you develop your own boundaries.
I think as well, one thing that I've learned in doing this is people that will be involved in the community definitely try to pander towards it because they get a benefit from it.
Yeah.
So like the creators that will always be on the rotation are ones that are always promoting something or their full shtick is trying to get people to talk about them, you know, and they poke the bear. But also the reason, if you want to know why it started, because I did like a full deep dive in it, was specifically with like drama commentary, because like the drama alerts existed for ages.
Yeah.
But the real rise of like drama and commentary specifically it started with the beauty community. And it started because a lot of these beauty influencers were kind of abusing powers to do with like what is it with like regulations with like ads?
FDA?
Where something like that, where they weren't disclosing properly the ads.
Yeah.
And a lot of viewers were buying products that were shit or scams or whatever. And so it started with these channels exposing to let the audience know, do not buy these products. And then it snowballed from there. You know what I mean? So that was how it started. I wasn't a part of it back then. I started doing commentary videos in 2019, whenever I was making like kind of my shitty little vlogs, and they really weren't getting any traction.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, whenever I spoke up about Colleen, that was a shit show and people really didn't respond to that well. So I pulled back completely on filming videos because everyone was like, oh my God, like untrustworthy, whatever.
Yeah.
So I kind of pulled back completely. And then in the end of 2020-ish, whenever we were really going into lockdowns, there was a lot of influencer parties happening during peak COVID in LA.
Yeah.
So I started dabbling my toes again in talking about these creators that were not abiding by this. And then those videos started getting traction, but I had this huge audience that was like kind of pulling me back from the original Colleen video that were like, well, we don't really trust your morals here. And I just continued to make videos on commentary and drama, and I would throw in other shit here and there.
Yeah.
And then it was ultimately last summer was when people kind of, I guess, trusted me a little bit more in terms of, and I think because I didn't back down from the 2020 story, people kind of were like, okay, so you had 3 years of not changing the story. So that was my personal journey with it, but it has been a thing since I think 2016, like specifically like the drama channels of it. I definitely feel like I used to pander to the drama channel aspect a little bit more than what I do now. I feel like I make less content than what I do now, and I kind of will focus on a topic and give commentary on it more.
Are they two different things? Do you consider commentary and drama channels two different categories?
Well, here's the thing. People will get so pissy about that. And people that are drama channels will get so pissy if you call them a drama channel because they're like, why are you not saying that I'm, you know, important enough to be commentary? And it's been this back and forth battle for so long. My opinion is I don't give a flying fuck. Like, you can call me a drama channel, you can call me a commentary channel, you can call me a gossip channel, you can call me a vlog channel, daily life. Like, the label-ish doesn't really matter to me, but it has been a thing back and forth. And it's definitely more so like the Keemstars of the world have, you know, pandered towards commentary. And then it'll mainly be like the the females or the gay men will be called like the drama channels. So there's definitely a little bit of iffiness when it comes to that, and like definitely labels. There are drama channels that are men that get really frustrated if you call them drama channels. I'm like, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about that. But yeah, I always wonder what it was like for a YouTuber that has been OG, but still creating content and still very much so doing well, kind of experiencing a new genre appear.
I mean, like I said, it made total sense to me, and was a huge sign of how big the space had gotten. I think, it's interesting, like when you say you started in 2019, I was like, yeah, that's when I was having like a mental breakdown about my experience, because I think things were changing, and you have to either figure out like how to adapt to the changes or take a break.
Yeah.
And it is an overwhelming space to create in now. I think that's like what I hear from a lot of other creators that have been doing it for a while, is just this kind of discouraging frustration with not knowing exactly how to create for what platform. There's so many platforms now. There's so many formats now. The formats are constantly changing.
Different lengths you have to pander towards.
Right. And I've heard someone, or I just didn't say the other day, like, why can't we just call it vertical versus like instead of shorts, because TikToks can be 10 minutes. And so it's interesting. I feel like I'm giving myself time to not care about it so much still, because it's still, like, it seems like a foreign space to me right now, and I'm not totally sure how I fit in there at the moment. So I'm just sort of like a little Jane Goodall, just like observing from the bushes of how everything's developing there. And also seeing like if I want to, like there is this, I think, inherent pressure that when you become a content creator and you like take on that identity, that you now have, like, there's no stopping. Like it's so hard to stop. It's so hard. And I think that's why I got as burnout as I did, because I just couldn't let myself stop completely. And you see it a lot with a lot of creators that can't stop.
There's also a promotion from the social medias that you need to continue going.
Yeah.
Because there's someone behind you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's when commentary started to get big, and you just realize, oh, this space is so big. And then you have that crisis of self of like, who gives a fuck what I have to say now? Like, what do I want to say? Does it even fit in this space, or am I making something because I feel obligated to versus I want to? And I've been really trying to nurture the like getting back to the because I want to space, but not trying to rush it. I have that like immediacy still that like comes up of like, well, the space is just going to get more crowded, so you got to keep going. But I'm trying to, chill.
I think that's very normal though, especially like doing it. I mean, that's the same with doing anything and, taking a step back from it and getting back into it. It's like, do I do exactly what I used to do, or do I figure out what I want to do different?
Yeah, because you're also a different person. Like, I think that's a huge part of the burnout that happens for creators, is that you can become a very one-dimensional persona version of yourself versus like a completely formed, complex human being. And for me, it was really a true like crisis of self, of being like, my entire world unconsciously to me, it revolved around content creation. Like, I always thought I wasn't going to be one of those creators that got like too overly identified with what I do, and that I could like have a balanced work-life situation. And I started to really freak out because I didn't have answers to the question, what am I if I'm not a content creator? What do I do if I'm not making something? And it's taken a few years to just try and like figure that out a little bit. And then to try and create in a way that doesn't feel immediately toxic again, of just like running myself ragged or trying to do too much. Especially when you're trying to make comedy. That you're like, it's not that serious.
Be funny. I don't feel funny.
I know. Things suck right now. So yeah, still trying to figure it out. But it does take like a second to realize like who you are independent of the platform.
Well, I think that's really interesting, and it's something that, it's funny you bring it up, because it's something that I really struggled with in doing commentary, specifically like a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, was like a breaking point for me. It's very much so promoted in general for creators that you have to post a lot. But when it comes to commentary, you have to stick up to date with current topics if things are happening, and you know, if you're not the first to post it or you're not one of the first to post it, you know, there's a level of fell off. Like you always get that. And so I think it was 2022, I really hit a breaking point with it, that I had no life if I was not filming videos. And it was because I had to be one of the first to post it. I was also in the UK pandering towards an American time zone audience. So I would, you know, have to pull all-nighters. So I would be awake for things. And I remember there was one breaking point where I had seen one of my childhood best friends. I went back to Ireland and I was like constantly checking my phone, and she was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we're at the bar. And I was like, oh, there's something that's going to break tonight. Like, I was told in advance, and I just need to, I'm going to do this and then go home. And she had said to me, she was like, if you lost your channel tomorrow, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
And in the moment, I was like, oh, whatever. And ultimately the news story broke and I didn't go home. But I think I took like 2 or 3 weeks of not uploading after that. And I was like, holy fuck, if I lost this grind, if I lost this whatever, I have no hobbies. I'm not in school. This is my job. So
all
that
of
was a
my
big
friends
thing.
do this. All of the people that I'm like acquaintances with like do this. It's so ingrained into your whole world.
I think that's okay. So this is my question for you. Obviously, because I live in the UK, all of, if we want to say colleagues, it's so stupid to say whenever you're talking about like YouTubers and stuff. They are all very much so based in America, whether mainly LA, but also some in New York. And I feel that I'm at that stage where I'm like, do I need to move? So I think I'm at the stage where you're like the Brooklyn to LA. I'm at it now. If you could go back and give yourself some advice on that, and by that I mean giving me advice, like what do you think my next move should be?
Honestly, it's hard for me to feel confident giving you advice because, like I said, I feel very removed from the ecosystem of content creation right now. I think, you know, move is such a big permanent semi-permanent change that there's ways to like experiment with it, like what you're doing now by coming out and spending a few weeks out here and seeing people and seeing if it makes sense. That's what I did too in the beginning. Like I would come out for like 2 weeks and I came out for like pilot season for like a month, and that's really when I first met all of these YouTubers and made all of these collab videos and just like got to see what it was like to be in the mix out here. I assume it's still that way. I'm not sure with like this generation of YouTubers, if people are still out here. It is great in terms of resources for making content. Obviously, weather permitting is great. Who knows with all these natural disasters, if we'll even be able to live here. There might be a mass exodus inland a bit all the way around. But yeah, I think it's worth trying. Like, especially if you feel that, if you feel like being where you are is keeping you from a full potential of something you could have somewhere else, try it. Worst case, you just move back.
I was about to say, I think just like honestly speaking, in terms of when I'm back home, there's no one in the scene there, even just to relate on. And it's a great thing as well because none of my friends give a shit. Which is nice. Yeah. But whenever I come out here, I mean, I was supposed to be here for a week. I mean, I've now been here for a couple weeks because like people keep like gracing me with their they keep gracing me with their time, and like there are still creators out here, and there are creators willing to talk, and there's creators willing to hang out. Like I was at the bar last night with Jake Weddle, who I'm filming with later and stuff, and it just has been this, it's so nice to also be in a space where it's normal what you do, rather than all my friends who are like, this is a weird ass fucking thing that you do.
Well, that's the thing. If you move out here, I mean, you're like, your productivity is probably going to go crazy in a way that you just have to be prepared for. I mean, there's good and bad. The point 12 years ago when I moved here was so hungry for that specifically. I felt like it was normal out here to make YouTube content, and in Brooklyn it was still very strange, and hardly anyone was doing it. So it was so cool to come out here and feel community. Like that is something that I never really had when I was younger. And so YouTube in the beginning provided that in the most beautifully incredible accidental way. And now I'm sort of craving like the reverse of you, of like going to a space where not everyone is doing this. You go to
Brighton, I'll go to LA.
Should we do vacation swap and have that, like, what's that movie, The Holiday?
Oh yeah. But also, so whenever you first moved to LA, because you're speaking about community, I think it's interesting to touch on that. How different do you think the sense of community was those first couple years of when you moved? Because as well, like VidCons were fucking huge. Like I was in the front lines watching those videos. Like
I paid for my first VidCon in 2009 or 2010. I bought a ticket, like an attendee with my roommate from Brooklyn at the time. And we came out here and we thought everything was walkable. So we stayed in a hotel that was literally like 10 miles from where the actual convention was.
There is nothing going on in Anaheim. For the record, if you've never been to fucking Anaheim.
It wasn't even in Anaheim yet.
What?
This is when it was in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Well, I also just want to clarify, there's nothing going on in Anaheim
Truly.
Wait, where was it in LA?
It was over in, God, what is it called? Like Mid-Wilshire area.
Was it like a much smaller scale?
It was in like a hotel.
Oh,
yeah.
fair.
It was a much smaller scale. It was the year before it got moved to Anaheim. And so I came out just like as a viewer, and like a couple people knew like who I was. I don't even think I had a pass actually. So I went to the lobby of the hotel with Michelle and we just sat there all day. No, we did have passes, but we didn't go to any of the things. We didn't go to any of the panels. We just sat in the lobby and met creators all day, and then went to the bar with everyone in the lobby at night. We weren't invited to any of the parties, so we couldn't go. So we just spent like 2 days doing that, and it was amazing because I started to get to know people for the first time. And then the next year I got invited as a creator, and it got moved to Anaheim, and it was like the most incredible experience. Like those early years of YouTube are like, for all the chaos and insanity, just like magical years to me.
What was the overall, because I remember watching the videos and they were chaotic.
Yeah.
What was the average schedule like for those days? Because ultimately it was fun, but yous were working. Like yous were the talent that were bringing people in.
It was like a high school or college experience in a way, where it's like, you know, everyone, you're seeing everyone, like you're meeting everyone that you know.
And then there's a bunch of screaming 12-year-olds following you.
Yeah, because the first year I remember going to the lobby bar, that's a running theme for VidCons. The first year was in Anaheim. I went to the lobby bar that first night that I got here. We were all so excited, and then drank too much and woke up to like people being like, yeah, you took photos, like very unflattering photos with like kids that were walking in with their parents being like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, from now on I have to get drunk.
Look at my photo with Grace Helbig. I'm like propping Grace Helbig up.
I'm like red-faced, sweaty, and just like having the best time. And so like from there on out, it was like, okay, we can get drunk behind the scenes a little bit. But they were just like crazy, amazing like experiences of like work hard, play hard. And I had a bunch of close friends that are content creators. So it was like we were doing all of our panels and meet and greets together. So it was just like you hanging out with like your best friends, meeting audience members that are the kindest, coolest, sweetest people that you have this like immediate, intimate connection with, and this like safety around in like a very bizarre way. And then you're watching all of your other creator friends have the same experience. And it was just like, it was just really incredible. Like those memories are blurry for many reasons, but were truly like amazing. I remember every year like going and being so excited about like, who am I going to meet that I haven't met yet? Who am I going to see? And then different opportunities to have like real conversations with creators too. Like that was the cool part. That to really discuss like the industry, to discuss the way that your fellow creators are creating, and to get inspired by what they're doing, because everything was so new, and it felt like every year we went back, there was all this new shit to talk about, or to commiserate on, or to cry about, or to get frustrated with. So it was just like, it was hard to be like present for it. That's the one thing I do regret, is that I wish I was a bit more present. It was so overwhelming and so overly like stimulating that I think I dissociated a lot in those years, while still having the best time. And also feeling that, I think, pressure too of things being so great. Like I don't want this to go away, but ultimately like things change and you change as a creative person. So yeah, amazing. Like I'm so thankful to be even a part of those first years, because I don't think it'll ever be that way again.
Well, I also agree with that. I mean, I grew up as the viewer, you know what I mean? Like you were the creator and I was the viewer, and I like longed for that VidCon like playlist live experience, and I ultimately got to go to one in 2022. And when I walked in with my mom, it was like, this doesn't look like the vlogs of 2022.
Yeah.
It was very different. You know, it was like a TikTok takeover. And by the way, VidCon, if you would like me for a creator this year, you know, I'll say good things. But like being realistic, it was just not what it had looked like in the past. The creators were very different. You know, not that many people specifically in that year were going. I know we were coming out of a lot of lockdowns, so a lot of creators weren't traveling as well. It was not what I was expecting. Yeah. And I remember that I had like my regular badge, obviously. And I remember I got snuck backstage. Yes. See, VidCon, I'll find a way. This is why you've got to give me a creator badge. So anyways, I had snuck backstage, and it was like that meme of when you're at Disneyland and you go backstage and Mickey has the hat off and he's smoking a cigarette. Yeah. Some of these creators, I'm like, damn, taking shots and smoking backstage. I'm like, they're working you. Yeah. They're working you.
That was really fun to see too, is like people's behind the scenes, to meet people and to see if they were similar or different to how you imagine. Because I know you say that I was there as a creator. I was there as an audience member too. Like I watched as much YouTube as I made. Yeah. Like I think I really thrived in the YouTube world because like when I lived in Brooklyn, I didn't have TV. So YouTube was the only form of entertainment that I was watching. I didn't have Amazon Prime or any of these streaming networks. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, it's still like that was my primary form of entertainment. So I was going as a fan and meeting people as much as people wanted to meet me. Yeah. And so it was like, oh my God. And to see the way that people are similar or different to how they are online was always so fascinating. Because I think, you know, especially like myself and the creators that I was closest to, we kind of were at least like prided ourselves on being pretty similar to how you might see us online. And so meeting people that maybe weren't was interesting, but also like the after hours of like walking through the hotel hallways late at night and seeing like who's going into whose room and also like,
God, I wish I was there. God.
It was it was a bit crazy. I wish I had more specific memories of it, but I just remember it being literally like it was its own universe, you know, where like the rest of the world doesn't matter. It's like everyone exists, like going to Disney, truly like going to Disney.
How exhausting were those days? Because
oh my God,
the vlogs looked. First of all, I know as well that, you know, you're no stranger to a meet and greet. And we're going to talk about you're doing a show with Mamrie in like a month's time as well. And there's a meet and greet there. And so you're no stranger to meet and greets. Yeah. But the VidCon ones looked particularly exhausting on the basis that you're also doing panels after it. And also my main thing as well was obviously with meet and greets, everyone knows, again, I'm a child of the internet, so I've gone to many. You're very aware of, you know, there's an unspoken time slot and there's an unspoken whatever. The thing with VidCon was they would pack those bitches. Yeah. And people would be coming for the sake of you. Yeah. So I just always felt that there was so much pressure. And the reason that I'm kind of grateful that I never went to a VidCon was because I feel like I would have been so parasocial with the creator that I liked and would have been so disappointed. But ultimately, it's not the creator's fault because it's this weird in between of it's not the creator's show and meet and greet, but what if you're just there for that creator? Yeah, I think I like the way I see creator, like people have boundaries now. Back then, I was so thankful that anyone wanted to say anything. Yeah. So I sat there for hours. Like I made sure I met every single person. It kind of gamified it to me too, a little bit of being like, okay, we're going to get through every person. Everyone's going to get time and I'm not rushing anyone and everyone's going to get exactly what they want because I can't imagine how long they've waited and I just don't want to disappoint people. I mean, like a people pleaser to my core. So it's just like, I'll be here hungover, sweaty and gross, but I won't leave this line until like everyone's able to have an experience. Because I was just like so grateful. And I know a lot of creators were, you know, protecting their own mental health and protecting their own physical health. And so they created their own boundaries for the way that their meet and greets were run. But I think that's the one thing I really do pride myself on is for how hungover I might have been at all of those conventions. I did not want to compromise my professionalism in terms of just
offering as much time as I could to the people that paid money and offered their time to be there, because ultimately these are the people that are like, you know, paying you with the most precious thing, their attention online. Like I didn't have a career without these people. I couldn't be at this thing without them. And so it was always really important for me to like sit and make sure that everyone got time.
Wait, walk me through a night before, like a meet and greet or something, in terms of a night out. What are we drinking? What are we doing? How long is it?
Usually we're in a hotel. We're in one of our hotel rooms. This is like me, Mamrie, Hannah, and then whoever our significant others are at the time. Maybe some friends. My brother came with me to
some
couple.
Some fans looking in the window as well.
Maybe. I mean, there was a few years in the early years of just being like, come on in. And then being like, okay, I can't be best friends with everyone. But it would be like, getting ready in one of our rooms, ultimately me trying to put fake lashes on Mamrie in some way, very DIY, us all painting our barns, as we would say.
Painting our barns?
When you paint the barn. It's like makeup. When you do your face.
Wow, I've never heard painting the barn before.
I think that's a Southern thing. And then it'd be like pre-gaming in a room, and then there'd be like industry parties to go to where you're like on lists and like
Hold on. When we're talking pre-game, I'm Irish, so I'm wondering if we're on the same wavelength. What are you pre-gaming and what is your mixture?
It was probably at that time vodka Red Bulls. I think it was like, okay, we're going to go to the industry parties. One, because it's, I guess, good business, even though there's no business really happening. You're just going and getting drunk and hanging out with people. And it was always
under the guise of business.
But there was like performances and stuff. And like we would occasionally, it'd be like one of our friends performing somewhere at an after party. So we'd like want to go support them. And so there's always like a few of the different after parties. Cause this is also when, like big studios like Maker and Studio 71 and all of these like talent houses, I guess, were like coming up. So each one would throw their party and try to have it like bigger and cooler and more exclusive than the one before. So you feel like a rock star in this really silly world, which was like so ridiculous, but also like fun. But it was... So you go to these parties and then you're kind of there and they give you drink tickets. So you're just like drinking all night with everyone and you're having a blast because it's a lot of people from all over the globe that you never get a chance to see other than like twice a year at these conventions. So, you know, your Canadian content creators that you never meet, your UK content creators that you never hang out with, you're like tying one on with them. And then you wake up in the morning and you're like, I have a 10 a.m. panel and a 12 p.m. meet and greet. And we're going to sweat through the day today. We're going to over-apply that deodorant and get through it. And yeah, it was a blur, but you kind of, I think I just knew going into it, this is an exhausting weekend. If I were doing it now at 39 years old, very different routine.
I was about to say ish. How many did you go to?
I went to so 2010, I think, was my first one. And then I think 2017 or 2018 was my last one.
Would you go to a new one or no?
I would go to one. I was just thinking about this the other day. If there was like a nostalgia VidCon that made an effort to harken back to like the 2012
like
years.
One?
Yeah, as like a, hey, 10 years later. I think they did like
an anniversary kind of,
sort of, where I could go with all the content creators that I am familiar with from my era. That would be really fun to do. I feel like I would be intimidated to go now in a sense that I just don't know who's who or what's what. That's kind of like the further like 2015, 16, 17, those were the years when you were going to the conventions and you're just like, I don't actually know all of the creators anymore. I don't really feel super connected to this community like I did before. And that's when you really started to feel the industry part take over and that this is like, oh, this is a big business now.
So when you're doing To Break the Fourth Wall, so the show with Mamrie is in London. You're doing how many? Was it?
We're doing one in Dublin and two in London.
You're doing Dublin?
Yeah.
Which venue?
We're doing...
I want to guess. Is it Vicar Street?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I think it is. Yeah.
I love Vicar Street. That's where I used to see Colleen. A lot of memories there. It's a good venue.
Yeah, we've played there before. Y'all are a rowdy crowd.
Dublin goes crazy. Specifically, I think that is one of the most beautiful venues in the world. I fucking love Vicar Street.
Yeah, it's always been a whirlwind. I think we've played it twice before, but we haven't been there for like 7 or 8 years. And so we were like, let's just let's just test the waters again and see what we can do. Well, technically, we were supposed to do this like a year ago or so, but then I got breast cancer.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't do it. So now that I'm better, I was like, I really want to go over there and do some shows.
1 Dublin and 2 London, was it?
Yeah, 1 Dublin, 2 London.
So how has your attitude going into these changed from like the pre-VidCon years of like having an audience there and stuff? Like, what is kind of your dynamic going into this of expecting of the audience, or what do you kind of know of the vibe, or are you just going into it fucking blind?
A bit blind, but also like even in us announcing these shows and selling tickets, I was like, is anyone going to buy a ticket? Like I don't know. I feel like I'm out of touch with the scope of things now. And thankfully people have bought tickets. So I'm just like, I'm so excited. I've had a crazy last year and I feel like I've got this itch to get on stage in a way that I haven't had in a while.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like a tiger in a cage.
Yeah.
Like, get me out there. I can't wait.
Well, me and my friend Neve will be 3rd row of that matinee
Yay,
show.
Neve. And I heard, Neve, you organized all the tickets, so good on you.
Also, having Memory kind of by your side, how has it been having like an OG with you going through all this? Because we've seen that not many people who were started at the time that you did and are still doing it now have that friend, you know, whether they've been turned on, whether there's been a huge drama, or whether it's been fucking radio silent. So how has it been having someone within the industry as well that you have like literally experienced it all with?
It's amazing. I mean, Memory and I have a very, I think, unique and powerful bond as friends and like business professionals together. Like, we've done so much together over 15 or 16 years of friendship. Like, we met doing sketch comedy in New York and just like, you know, started trying to figure out this YouTube thing kind of at the same time. And it's like, whatever the more positive version of trauma bonding is, I think we've done that. And so it's amazing to be able to like create together and to have that support and to have that understanding of like what this industry is, and then to also be able to have our own individual creative worlds and to be able to sort of ebb and flow back and forth. It's incredibly special. Like, it seems, I guess, rare, but it's really, I don't think we take it for granted at all.
Also, this wasn't a question that I'd written down, but it just popped into my head. What is your relationship like with auditions? Because I don't know why this is
I don't do it anymore.
That's what I'm saying. I don't do them anymore either because I was terrible at them.
I'm so bad at them. I'm so bad at acting, and I'm so bad at auditioning. I'm so bad at doing anything that I don't have like complete control over. This is fine. I have no problem sitting down and like having a chat. But going in on auditions, I would get so nervous, and then I'd be like, I don't really want to do this. And like, everyone else here really wants to do this. So like, why am I even trying to compete like in this world with this?
I want to tell you my worst audition story.
Please,
and if you can then think of, if any standout ones of you. So my poor mum and dad, they were so lovely, and I went to drama school, obviously.
Nice.
And I was really committed to the bit, and I was like teacher's pet and stuff, and I always used to get the auditions. And I lived in Derry in Ireland, which is way up top, and all the auditions would be in Dublin. Also, one of the auditions I did, I don't know why this is popping into my head, was for Disney, and I went and did the audition, and it was my drama teacher had set it up. And then I did this full like audition. We were all on stage, and there was like a bunch of men on stage, and all these kids went up and did auditions, and the parents were in the crowd watching.
Yeah.
And they would like take photos of us and all like this. Ended up finding out that it was a scam. So don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know if I'm a victim or something, but I don't know what happened there. That wasn't the worst one, but it was just something that popped in my head.
Bizarre.
But my worst one, so they would be so committed to drive me down to Dublin for these auditions, and I would feel this sense of like, I want to get this one. And there was one that I actually got. It was this fuck ass movie, and then it ultimately got cancelled. And I don't know if you know the Peter Pan. I don't know if I ever said this, but they made a Peter Pan movie called Pan, I think in like 2013. It was like a Hugh Jackman movie. And I was this close to getting the fucking role, but I was literally just too old. Thank God, because that movie got panned, literally. So shout out. But my worst one was, I was really stressed about the fact that my parents drove me down for this commercial. It was for like, I think like cereal or some bullshit, right?
Yeah.
We drove down, and it just lingers over my body. There's like all these kids that just look exactly like you in the waiting room. It's how it goes. And I went in, and the audition was so fucking stupid. They were like, they were like, we're going to put cereal in front of you and you have to act like it's the best cereal ever. And you're so excited to eat this cereal. So tell me why, like, you're sitting at the desk, right? And they're all right in front of me. And I'm like reacting how I would react if I like some cereal. And they're like, no, that's not good enough. And they kept doing more. By the end of it, I was like, whatever, like this. And I just feel,
dance monkey.
I just feel my mom at the side going like, she's like, wow, we drove down here for 4 fucking hours for nothing. It was, and even in the moment, I was like, this is fucking terrible. I'm like, yummy. Like, it was so bad. And I have never done auditions since that, because I came out of that room and I said, Mom, don't make me do that again. She was side stage and she went, yeah, that one didn't do any well. Is there any standout ones that are like really bad for you?
Man, I auditioned for SNL like in 2010 or 2011. And that was terrifying because I'm not an impressionist. They were just, I think, looking for people with, you know, the start of a digital footprint,
like a built-in audience.
Yeah, they were just starting to like expand to like, oh, that I think is interesting for us to bring on. So they were bringing more people that had like internet experience, and so I had to like develop these terrible impressions to try and put together. And I remember I did a terrible Taylor Swift impression. And you go, first of all, they put you in all the dressing rooms. You don't know how long you're going to be there all day. So they just put you in all the dressing rooms. You can hear other people going into dressing rooms. You can't see who else is auditioning. There's no cell service in the building.
Damn.
So you're just in a dressing room, like practicing your stuff because you have like 10 minutes or something once you get on stage. And you have no idea when you're going to go. So you're just like pacing in a room until someone comes and gets you. And then they bring you down to hair and makeup and they touch you up. And then they bring you on stage and they like announce you. And then you're on the SNL stage and there's just like a panel of people that you can't see that are like kind of silhouetted, lit behind them. And I've been told like they don't laugh, like you're not going to get any laughs. And so you go like, through, guys, you go through your bits, and I'm doing a bit of like a Jersey girl that I did on my YouTube channel, which is so cringy and so terrible because Jersey Shore had just like come onto the scene and it's so bad. And then I'm like switching from that to do a terrible Taylor Swift impression, which it's dead silent, and I'm like doing the worst, and then like 5 minutes goes by and then I just quietly walk off the stage and it's dead silent. You can just hear
your feet, like your heels.
I literally heard someone sneeze at one point.
It's like the
and no one says God bless you, and I'm just like, okay, so they're alive, but like this is painful. And then you go back to your room and you sit there until they eventually come by like an hour later when everyone's done, and they knock on your door and they tell you can leave. And Seth Meyers was standing by the elevator shaking all of our hands as we walked onto the elevator to go leave. And I was just like, get me back to my apartment so I can make YouTube videos. I don't want to do this ever again. I'm not cut out for this. It was pretty, you know, a blow to the ego, but really did at that time like solidify my commitment to the internet space. And like really, it was like very clear how much more I enjoyed making YouTube videos at home than trying to do this thing that I thought was like a childhood dream. Like, especially in comedy, it was like, oh, that's like the holy grail if you can get on SNL. So it was like, I got close. That's it. That's all I
can just imagine you on stage, like repeating the last line, like, ta-da!
Oh, I feel like I blacked out. I have no idea what I said. I think I had to do other characters. I don't even remember what those other characters could even be. I have no Heidi Klum. I think I did Heidi Klum. Can't do accents.
We need this footage. We need this footage.
Brutal.
I want if the Taylor Swift footage leaked, I'm sure you'd be crucified online, whatever it was.
Brutal. So I don't really audition
I've
much.
written it off as well. I'm like, this is all I've got. Please continue watching. I do have another little subgenre to talk about.
Yeah.
I told you I'm a child of the internet. I was a viewer. I had every goddamn YouTuber book. The YouTuber books in general were not good. And I think that it was my brother who originally had both of your books, and then I got them as hand-me-downs. Surprisingly, and I'm not saying this, I'm just speaking in things. No. Surprisingly, they were good.
Thanks. They were also, you know, not meant to be, they were comedy books in a way. So they were, They weren't going to be A Fault in the Stars.
Yeah.
You know?
They were even better to me.
They weren't the turtles going down. Love John Green and his books that I know all the titles of. Searching for Idaho.
How was the process though of releasing books when, I don't know if you released it before, during, or after, when it was really becoming almost like, here's another YouTuber book. Did it feel like it was kind of discrediting in a way, or were you before?
I think I got in the beginning. I remember Hannah Hart got a book deal and it was like, oh, that's possible for us? That's incredible. Like, I went to school for writing. Like, that's in my wheelhouse. And then I was approached by Simon & Schuster, and I was like,
which is like a great publishing.
And I'm trying to work on a third book with them now that it would be radically different than the first two. But I remember after I graduated college being both like obsessed and turned off by the world of self-help. Like I was fascinated with the Eat, Pray, Love of it all. And I was fascinated with these women that became lifestyle coaches and this whole world that just seemed like it just regurgitated the same information again and again. So when I was approached for one, I was like, I want to do tongue-in-cheek like self-help books. Like I don't want it to be straight up jokes. I want it to be comical, but also there's like some heart to it, which is just generally the brand I think that I was building for myself anyway. So thank you for reading them.
How quick was the process? Were they like on YouTubers' ass to like get the mic quick?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I remember being in London actually, and I was there for, I think we were doing shows there, and then I was also
booked and busy.
I was trying to do shows. They had just created the YouTube space out in London, so they were inviting a lot of creators to come out and try to utilize the space, and I just launched like my podcast, so I was like, I'll record like this podcast episodes with all the UK people I can, and my book was due at that time too, so I remember just like crying in a hotel room, like trying to get everything done and then trying to like make videos still to stick to the schedule and trying to ignore like how tired I was and like not doing it was not an option. But I was really proud of those books. I feel like I turned them out in a time period that was really high stress. And now this third book I've been trying to write kind of about those initial years of YouTube and that experience. And I'm just being much more precious with this one. So I'm really taking my time.
I think there's something really interesting. Again, off the top of my head, and I was having this conversation with my brother before I started filming this because we were talking about the books.
Yeah.
There's very few YouTuber books at that time period that I can think that and not to ass kiss here because I'm the biggest bitch ever, but like I would say to you, there's very few ones that I can think of that were of a quality in which I didn't immediately associate it with a YouTuber. And considering you were under the pressure of timelines and everything, it's really shocking. And also, it's also really shocking that you didn't kind of pander towards, I mean, some of these books were terrible.
There was a lot of memoirs happening. And I remember being
fucking like 23 years old. What do you mean?
No shade to anyone that wrote books. Writing a book or writing it in collaboration with the ghostwriter is a difficult thing to do. I'm going to
give shade. Grace is nicer than me. I'm going to give shade.
But I do remember being like, I think I was like 30, 31 or so at the time. And I was like, I don't need to write a memoir.
Yeah.
Like Mamrie wrote a story, like short stories. She's lived a life that has collected hilariously entertaining short stories. So her book was like really like on point for that. But I do remember I was thankful to kind of get in the beginning because it did become a meme of itself afterwards of every YouTuber coming in, making a book, making the bestseller list, and it felt like the traditional like lit world was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean, again, it was the memoir thing is really funny, and this is something I've spoken about before. I find, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but I'm pretty sure it was like Tyler Oakley and Connor Frenta and stuff. Like having memoirs at 21, 22, 23, and also they were probably being told that this was the best thing for them to write at that stage. Yeah. But it is really crazy that was just so normal. And for an audience, I added up.
I will say Tyler's is very hilarious.
Was his a memoir? He was the one I never read.
Yeah, he's got short stories too. And there's a few stories in there that genuinely are so, so funny. but yeah, it became this like thing, this like trope, this other like it's the expansion pack of working on as a YouTube content creator. You get to this level where now you write a book and you do this, and I don't know if is that still the case now? Like with that pipeline?
Well, I got reached out too.
Did you?
But I was like, I can barely fucking read. I mean, like, I'm gonna be fucking honest with you.
Well, that was the thing too, that it was like very obvious that people were making books that maybe didn't consume books, myself included, which is why I was like, I want to write a self-help guide. I have read self-help books, but I want this to be a comedy piece. And to consider it almost like another piece of like merch or something, but it's interactive. But yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
I think it definitely ended up becoming a meme. I think the first couple of them was such a shocking thing. It was like such a big thing.
It was disruptive. And then
I think as well, there were some YouTubers that ended up releasing like 3rd and 4th and 5th books and stuff like that because they were obviously getting a lot of sales during that time period as well. And I think it's really interesting you bring it up. When I think about it, it was just kind of a subgenre of merch for a lot of YouTubers because I mean, like, Alfie Days, God bless him, like his book, and I had it on my Christmas wish list, and thank God Sinead and Glenn for pulling through for me and getting it to me. But his book was like one of those like wreck it yourself journals. Yeah. And looking back on it now, I'm like, a lot of these books look like YouTubers who were given really short deadlines and were very much so pressured into doing something because like, again, and I mean like Gabby Hanna's poetry books, like there are pages of just empty pages of like doodles and stuff like that. So I do believe that a lot of YouTubers at a certain stage when they were pushing them out at such high quantities really kind of ruined the perception of it for everyone. Yeah,
because it's interesting because you have people like Hank and John Green that are novelists that write these incredibly beautiful books.
And they're in the YouTuber book section at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, and and Hank are still writing these incredibly inspiring books. And so I can't imagine what their thoughts on the boom of all of that is. But it was tough, right? Because at that point, we're in this industry that was getting shit on from all sides in the traditional sense. Like people really did not take YouTubers seriously and really wanted to pigeonhole them as these completely talentless, basement dwellers that have no social skills. And there's some of those.
That's what I'm saying, be it a little bit true.
I mean, I check some of those boxes and I feel like part of my sort of not like mission, but like it was really meaningful to me to like make a mark for myself and for content creators in the traditional space in a way that felt authentic and like meaningful. I got to do a TV show that sort of like did this hybrid thing of bringing traditional and new media people together. And I was really proud to be able to do that. Did it break the mold in the TV sense? No.
In my mind, yes.
Oh, bless you. But it was that period of time where like you took the opportunities given to you because all of us kept being told that like the internet is stupid and we suck. And so when someone's like, do you want to write a book? You're like, yeah, for sure. Because someone could pull the plug on the internet tomorrow. None of us have any idea what the scope of this industry is. So I don't fault people for making as many books. It is just comical the way it happened, especially from an like audience perspective of just like
all at once. Everyone got those deals at once.
It was like book after book after book and being like, okay.
Well, when do you think the turning point, do you have an idea in your mind of when it went from the perception of YouTubers is exactly what you thought? Because I remember being a fan of YouTubers and like parents and teachers and even friends would be like, okay, this is so fucking weird. Just watch like TV or something. But now it is like parents are like, I want little Debbie to be a YouTuber. Was there a turning point where you noticed a difference or was it just kind of like gradual? Because I can't even pinpoint it in my head, but I don't even think it was gradual. It seemed to just go from like 0 to 100 of people being like, wow, I love YouTubers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't really know what the turning point was exactly. I remember hearing like in the early years, someone telling me that like their senior high school class, like the majority of what people wanted to be when they grew up was a YouTuber. And I was like, what? That's absurd. That's obscene. Go to college, get a degree. And now it's like so commonplace. I do feel like creators like Lily Singh really like made it a mission to like build this incredible brand for herself that is undeniably successful in the world of new media and traditional entertainment. And I think people like that just started to build bigger, like PewDiePie, like the size of that channel at that time was undeniable for people. It was confusing. And even like with the Mr. Beasts of it all, confusing the amount of numbers that he can generate. But once people started to like figure out how to hone in, figure out the algorithm, figure out how to like grow and build and really realize that this industry is not going anywhere, it's just getting bigger, it just like took off. And I don't know exactly, I feel like 2016 on, it was just like, kind of blending into traditional media in a sense.
There was so many more sponsors getting involved as well, which I feel was a big turning point. Yeah,
and I feel like with the blossoming, or I don't know, destruction of Instagram, like the idea of influencer, because you have YouTubers and you have influencers. I don't even know if you consider them the same thing or if they're two different things or both and neither nor. I don't know. And then TikTok is like blown up into a way that I still am not familiar with that platform, but I know that
I stay clear too as well.
It overwhelms me, but I know it's like, it's huge. It's huge. So yeah, the industry is just like, who knows?
I think for me, the accessibility of everyone being able to post, and I think kind of maybe TikTok kind of revolutionized the way people look at creators in general, because it was no longer this, well, these are the top dogs and they can fuck off. It was everyone could be a part of it, and the top dogs were still the top dogs. So it was kind of less of a, how did they get up there? Kind of thing. I guess that's my perception of it. I think taking it back to kind of where you're at now, I fully asked your permission to talk about you opening up about cancer. Just want to also clarify that. And the reason I really want to bring it up, not only because of the series you have, but whenever I posted on I have like a little Finsta, and I was like, anyone have any like topics or whatever, there was so many overwhelming people opening up about the fact that the series that you had made and the documentations of diagnosis to ringing the bell, that they're currently going through the exact same thing. Or they have just rang the bell, or they want to ring the bell, or their family member, so how has it been? Obviously you said you like took a little break, you got burnt out. How was it to come back and really like be vulnerable in terms of that retrospect?
It's kind of crazy that it was so easy. Like I had taken time off. I went to graduate school. I did this like graduate program to try and just like see a different path in life that's like adjacent to, but not directly involving, or new media. And I had finished school and I was trying to figure out like, okay, and here's the next chapter. What do we want to do? And then I got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was interesting because Hank Green had gotten diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma a month before. And so I got this weird blessing of being able to watch the way that he shared that with his audience and sort of navigated it a little bit. And because I would have had no idea. So though I wasn't like full-time making videos, I did feel this obligation to wanting to let people know. And then when I did that and just sort of announced it, the response was so overwhelmingly supportive and positive and encouraging. And that diagnosis is like very, shakes your world up and shakes your sense of reality up. And it's very isolating in a lot of ways, even though you're surrounded by support. And so to hear people's stories, to get recommendations from them was just like immediate connection. Like I just felt this like very like recharged responsibility or this like calling to like share it. Because it's very lonely to be sick. And so to be able to make content somehow made it more normal for me. I felt like I was very grounded in making content in an otherwise very disorienting experience. And the feedback of just being able to hear from people that it's been helpful and to see the transparency of it. I mean, I didn't show everything because it's crazy, but it was like, I didn't even think about it, you know? And then since I've been out, there's been a little amnesia of being like, whoa, did I put that all online? My husband will be like, yeah, you put a lot of stuff on the internet.
Do you go back and look at anything, or do you kind of keep it?
No. So this is the thing. Like, I never looked at old content. Like, it is so hard for me to look at old content. I think I was so conditioned in like early years of being like, move on to the next one, move on. I never looked at comments. I never looked at subscriber counts. I never looked at numbers. I was just like, I just have to go to the next one, which I think helped me a little bit in the few years. But then when I was posting about cancer, I was really interacting with all of the comments and really being able to like share a lot of like really beautiful sentiments with people. That really helped me in the experience. There was this like sense of obligation in a really good way of like getting through it for the audience and also myself, obviously. And then also being able to like share. I learned so much about like supplies I needed or things I needed to do that I otherwise wouldn't have really known from people commenting and like communicating with me. So it was amazing. But now that it's like done, that's where I'm trying to figure out like, how do I make content again? Because it was also very easy to make content. There was this sense that like, especially when you do comedy, like, so you're trying to come up with jokes and like funny ways and angles to present things. This was like the most honest I've ever been with an audience. Like, I wasn't trying to look for a joke. I was just showing people this is exactly what's going on and this is exactly how I think about it. And it was easy. It was so like, there was so much clarity in that versus now making content. I'm back at like, well, what do I want to do? I don't know. There's so many different ways to do this now.
Well, there was a couple comments I got as well. And I feel like this phrase is very weird. So like, hear me out.
Okay.
But it was commented a lot, and I don't know exactly how it was phrased, but kind of relating it to experiences like we've seen in people if they speak up about things that have gone on in their life and then they like take a little break and then they come back, and do they want to be like an advocate for whatever they went through. I was getting a lot of comments from people saying, do you within yourself feel that whenever you come back, like you have a sense of, because you were so connected with everyone during this series, or is it a case of you can acknowledge this was that time? You know what I mean? The phrase is really weird, but I just like...
It's really strange because like it does become a bit of your identity that you're like, I'm Grace Helbig going through breast cancer right now. Like that, it almost becomes like this simplified identity of how to see yourself online. And that is the mind fuck that happens. Like the post-treatment sort of psychological journey is even more difficult in different ways than being sick. When you're sick, and I hear this a lot now from other cancer patients or thrivers or survivors, that the post-treatment was like the hardest part because you're like, you're so clear when you're in it of like, this, I have to put myself first. It's the only thing. As someone that didn't really do that all the years before, it was kind of incredibly freeing to have that permission because I could die if I don't, that I have to put myself first. And it's super simple to be like, this is all I'm doing. All I'm doing is working on this. And then when you're finished with it, there's this sense of like, okay, now who am I in the world and how do I want to show up in the world? And there's a little bit of pressure too in being like a person that wants to exist in these public spaces to feel this obligation to represent or to have information like that. I'm very intimidated by and trying to figure out how to best support. Like, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month right now, and I just got to do this incredible event where I rappelled off of a 17-story building to support the cancer
Photos
support.
Looked crazy, by the way.
It was insane, and it was sponsored by this company, or this organization, Cancer Support Communities Los Angeles. And so being able to start to do stuff like that feels very meaningful to me. But there is like a sense of like, oh, how do I be the best advocate? And I don't know. So I'm kind of figuring that out in real time. And I do feel like part of me putting as much online as I did was wanting to show some sense of advocacy. Like, here's my experience. Maybe this will help you feel less alone or give you some information. Or there's still full verbose comment sections with tons of information for people that they can go look through. that was like the thing I knew how to do. It was like talk to a camera and make videos. So now, I'm still figuring it out.
I think as well, like my final point on this is you had posted, it was recently your birthday, right? Mm-hmm. And you had posted, when is your birthday? What day?
September 27th, Libra.
We're so close. I'm
Really?
30th.
Ooh, fellow Libra.
Mm-hmm. Just about.
Nice. And a September Libra. They're the good ones.
You had posted a photo of you on your birthday and then a photo of you on your birthday last year.
Yeah.
And the response to it was crazy. It just was such a realistic approach of life, like seeing how quickly things can go.
Yeah, because it's really like there is that part of that like critic part of me that's like, you don't want to be the cancer girl, like get over it, you know, like there is that part of you that goes like, am I talking about cancer too much online? But it's,
please never think that, by the way.
It's great, but you do have these thoughts of being like, is this too much? But the reality is, that's the reality. Yeah. Like that has been what I've been going through. And so, to be able to post that for myself too, because a lot of times when you're done, you're like, I just want to get the fuck away from that experience and never think about it again, which is like my MO psychologically is just to be like, just keep going forward. But it's so significant and continues to change my life that I don't want to try to run away from it. And I think I remember being there last year in that experience and just being like, this is going to be forever. Yeah. Like I can't imagine life outside of this. And so for me, it was just nice to be able to be like, see, cool.
And to look back on it as well. And just the photos was crazy to see side by side.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking about that because again, I didn't want to push anything. But how does this apply now in terms of moving forward, in terms of life, personally, and also like professionally? Like, where do you see yourself going?
I want to have fun.
That's a good start.
That is kind of, I want to be a silly little bitch again, and I want to have fun. So I'm working on some stand-up.
Yeah.
I have a show at the Elysian Theater out here where I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is attempt to present an hour of storytelling and stand-up all by my lonesome. It's called Let Me Get This Off My Chest, and it's about the breast cancer adventures. So I'm dipping my toes into that world, and that seems really exciting to me now. Mamrie and I have our shows in November coming up, and we podcast every week, every Wednesday. This Might Get Weird comes out. So I'm trying to get back to like comedy again, and also being gentle with myself of like, you don't need to rush. I do feel the pressure of like, what's next? That question of having to have a billion things to say. And there's honestly not much, and that's great.
I think my final question for you is, personally speaking, what's something you want to do?
What's something I want to do? I want to do like a stand-up show by myself.
Okay.
I've always done shows with friends and collaborators with like Hannah and Mamrie, and I've never done my own solo show. And so this little workshopping show that hopefully gets developed a little bit more is the seeds of that. So this is like a bucket list thing that I don't think I've let myself really acknowledge that I really want to do, and I'm fucking terrified of it because I still have chemo brain and I can't remember things when I start saying them, so that'll be a big hurdle to get over. But this is kind of like, I've always wanted to do that, but it's been easier to do other things and avoid it, but we're going to try.
Do you have the information for that yet or no?
Yeah, it's at Elysian Theater on November 6th at 7:30. I know that is the day after the election. Hopefully
after party.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good day.
Are tickets on sale already?
They will be. They're technically on sale. I just haven't promoted it yet because I'm scared.
Well, here you hear it.
Yeah.
I also, sorry, I do have one last question.
Of course,
and it's from like creator perspective.
Yeah.
Do you feel a sense of blackout when you look back on content? Because I was going through content today. Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even remember filming this.
Yeah, it's like I said, the first like 5 years of making content, I never rewatched a video. I never really looked at comments unless like I had to for whatever reason. And then I got into like a real burnout phase where I would like get drunk and then like an old retired football player be like, let me watch that. I was so funny. That was so good. Really sad. And, but also like the just amount of content that was made was always so overwhelming. So yeah, I had a really hard time looking back, and now I have to look back because I'm trying to write this third book about that time period because my memories are very blacked out. Like I think it was such a whirlwind of like incredible but overwhelming experience that I dissociated like for
Isn't
so
it
much.
so great to be able to like look back on shit though?
It is, but so I don't know why sometimes it makes me cringe too. I have a hard time looking back on it, and then I'll be like, okay, that wasn't that bad. But I don't know why in my head, I think I still have a bit of this like, oh, that's so cringy.
I think when I look back on stuff now, I kind of dissociate from the fact that that is me, and I watch it from like an audience point of view.
Yeah, well, that was the really interesting thing that was happening when like I started to get into that deep burnout was that like I would kind of have this panic when I would edit my videos of not knowing who that person was that was editing. Like knowing that was me, but not feeling like I was in my own body, like very dissociative. And feeling like I had gotten so used to watching myself from an editing point of view, like so used to watching myself as if an audience member was watching me. And that I had to like learn how to be back in my body, in my like reality, in my present moment. So it's, taken some time, but when you look back, I'm just like, man, that girl made a lot of content. Good for her. That's crazy.
That's why I don't edit. I don't edit.
You don't edit. That's nice.
Like you can just breaking the fourth wall here. This is where you can see this is switching back and forth here.
Yeah.
I am not editing this. I cannot watch myself anymore. Like this is perfect for me. See how this switches back and forth? I'm not doing anything here.
That's great. I don't edit our podcast. We have an editor for that. But like my own videos, I have like editor friends that I can send it to.
Yeah.
But my own insanity is like, I
To,
don't
like,
want
be
to
in control
send
of it
them
and stuff?
the dumb parts of me just like
Fair.
trying to think of what to say.
Yeah. I think the difference is whenever I film a video, I will hit record. And whenever I hit record, I'm like, I'm
Ready.
locking in. I'm locking in. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to do anything. And that's why I used to do live streams. And I would, talk for like 5 hours. And in the live streams, I would just film one video, film another one, because I don't want to fucking listen to myself back.
Yeah, smart.
But what I will say in closing, and it just feels so stupid to do this to you, and I've been doing it to everyone, specifically you. Are you able to look into this camera and tell people where to find you and what you're currently doing? It just feels so fucking saying it to Grace Helbig, please.
You can find me at Grace Helbig across, I think, most social media platforms. This is Grace Helbig on TikTok. And Mamrie and I have our podcast, This Might Get Weird, comes out every Wednesday. Go check that out. And maybe I'll see some of you in November at the Elysian Theater.
Well, you'll be seeing me and Neve.
Yes,
for sure.
In November in the UK. I can't wait.
Right. Well, the shows, if the ticket links and stuff you can send me. I think London and Dublin may already be sold out. If they're not, they'll still be down there.
Yeah, London's closed. Dublin still has some tickets. So yeah.
And then if the other solo show, if you can send me a link of that if whatever, it'll be down below. Thank you so much for your fucking time.
This was so fun.
Honestly felt like a VidCon experience. VidCon are going to post this as promo for the next year. They're going to be like, look, a creator doing something really nice and meeting a fan. I really appreciate you coming on. This has been such an out-of-body experience. Josh, I cannot believe that she's been here, my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really fucking appreciate it. And thank you for continuing to be a good one on the platform.
You too. Thank you for what you're doing. And us, like now I just feel like selfishly, I have a person that can just tell me what the fuck is going on YouTube.
Well, I'll be locking in and telling you.
Thank you, Adam.
Muckers, thank you so much for watching. Everything will be linked down below. I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you in my next one, and goodbye.